All right, Nick, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers ahead of the free agency period. This is the time where teams need to get their rosters in order so they can decide what moves they're going to make down the line. And today we have a story about the Pittsburgh Steelers and a move they have just made that I think shows a sign of where they are headed going forward. Let's get into the article. We can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, is on NBC Sports. It says the Steelers have moved on from one of their key offensive linemen. Pittsburgh announced on Friday the club has released starting center Mason Cole. Cole, 28, has served as Pittsburgh's starting center for each of the last two seasons. He played in 100% of the team's offensive snaps in 2023. The Steelers signed Cole to a 3-year deal in March of 2022. Arizona had selected Cole in the third round of 2018 draft, and he played 46 games for the franchise before he was traded to Minnesota in 2021. He appeared in 14 games with 7 starts for the Vikings to finish his rookie contract. With Cole's release, the Steelers will save $4.75 million against the cap. Now, Nick, I think this is a significant move on many different fronts. I'm sure you're going to tell us your thoughts on this one. But Steelers fans, let us know in the comments below. I think we've heard some discourse about Cole along the years. Are you happy that they have moved on from Cole, or do you wish that they would have kept him? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest move by the Steelers?
So I think it's a sign that there really is significant change in terms of how Pittsburgh is running their franchise. Because if you back things up a few years ago, if you would have told any fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers or anyone just following football in general, they would have said, okay, the Steelers have an offensive lineman that's been a 2-year starter. He played 100% of the snaps. He only cost what, $5 million, $6 million against the cap when you factor in the dead money as well on top of his $4.75 million cap hit this year. The Steelers were more likely to extend him, not cut him. Certainly weren't going to cut him, right? Because the Steelers have always been about continuity and stability above all else. And that's worked in some instances, but recently it has totally failed. To me, this is a sign that the Steelers are going to make massive changes this offseason. I think the Steelers are about to make some big time moves. Because here's another element to consider. Mason Cole, being the center, has a really key critical relationship with the quarterback position. That includes Kenny Pickett. That includes Mason Rudolph. You bring in a new center, there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of timing, a lot of continuity that has to be established between those two positions. You might as well bring in a new quarterback as well. And I think that may be where the Steelers are heading here, regardless of what they're doing at either of those two positions. I think this is a clear and obvious sign that the old era of the Steelers staying with players too long, staying with coaches, Matt Canada, too long, that is over. We're heading into an offseason of massive change in Pittsburgh, and frankly, that's really warranted. I think this is a really good move for the Steelers, and I think it's the first of many more moves like this in terms of much needed change to come down the pipeline, especially when you consider the fact that Mason Cole was quite terrible. If you look at where he ranks, if you look at his PFF grades, I'll go through his entire career here, starting at 2018 through this past season. 53.6, not good. 58.4, not good. 54.4, not good. 69.7, a career year is 69.7. That's a problem. 2022, 67.1, and last year, 57.3. In terms of all NFL centers, according to PFF, he graded out 37th. There are 32 teams in the NFL. Mason Cole is not a starting center. It makes obvious sense the Steelers should move on, even if he has good continuity. I like the direction the Steelers appear to be heading this offseason. I think we're about to see another tranche of big-time moves, bringing in some new change, some much-needed change to this Pittsburgh franchise.
Yeah, Nick, and I think there is some things we saw earlier this season that support what you're saying now and kind of the change. Because we saw earlier this season, even when Broderick Jones came into the lineup in, a spell to, help relieve the injury of Okafor and Dan Moore Jr. And we saw he did well. He played really well, and Moore Jr. and Okafor really weren't doing that good. But as soon as they both got healthy, Jones plucked from the lineup, and they went back with the two tackles who were subpar to Jones's play, I would say. Until about halfway through the season, when things started to change, when, about that same time, a little bit after they cut Matt Canada, Jones started to start. I think they really kind of slowly but surely throughout this whole past season have made the moves that you're alluding to. And I think this is just one more move in that timeline saying, hey, listen, we've got guys we need to evaluate. We've got guys in free agency in the draft. We don't need to stick with a guy just because they're very, very okay and because they've had career year that's probably some of people's worst years. We need to start moving on from those guys. Just because they're cheap doesn't mean that we should keep them on the roster. I think the mentality by the Steelers is good here. And I think if you look back to the beginning of the season to now, you can see all the little moves along the way, just showing that the Steelers really are changing.
And I just agree with you 100% there because we're starting to see a trend here, right? A few weeks ago, we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers expanding their analytics, right? They're hiring some more analytics, some more modern people to join the coaching staff. Last week, we talked about the story. Now, Omar Khan's using smoke screens and some clever strategies to hide the Steelers' intentions at quarterback. That's not something the Steelers traditionally do. Now they're moving off a veteran player, even though he has great continuity with the roster, even though he's not that expensive against the salary cap. We're seeing this trend that the Steelers are really going into some massive changes this offseason. I think it's much warranted. I'm excited to see what comes out of Pittsburgh because I think over these coming days, weeks, and months as we get ready for 2024, there's going to be a lot of big-time moves affecting the Steelers franchise.